and try to replicate what C9 did. So I want to see if this gets locked in.
Well, let's go ahead and take a look at the bans here compared to the first game. We do have the Jace, the Elise, the Heimerdinger banned out by FlyQuest. They do not want to deal with Zven's Heimerdinger again. They definitely didn't have an answer for it in game number 1. Lucian, Annie, Vi, all banned away by C9. FlyQuest opt away from the Maokai, and they want Zeri for Prince again.
And again, Maokai and Varus are still up, so C9 could go for the same 1-2 here on red side and have a counter pick for support, which is going to set them up for the same condition that they had last game.
Now, what's your feeling about Zeri with or without enchanters? Do you think that like if they're this hard committed to Zeri that they should move more towards like a Lulu or something like that? Or do you still think it's fine? Because it just felt like their lane with Rakan is so incredibly weak.
Yeah, I think it comes down to counterpick support because that kind of determines if you can push lane or like have a good matchup where you can like at least go even. And yet last game they had counterpick, so C9 is going to go for the same 1-2 here, it looks like. So I would like to see C9 get counterpick support, and it kind of puts Fly in a bad spot where they might have to pick on or like pick on 4-5 and double ban bot lane.
It's interesting because they banned out Heimer, so maybe FlyQuest is feeling like that is the main issue, that C9 can't replicate the same level of lane pressure with that. I mean, if they lock Rakan here, they really are saying Heimer was the problem.
Exactly.
But it's interesting because Zven is one of those guys who, you know, was playing a lot of these range supports, was playing a lot of even marksman supports, and is happy to play lane dominant stuff. So I wouldn't even be surprised to see like an Ashe or something like that and try to play pretty lane heavy.
Well, one other big change we've got in this draft, Spica on the Sejuani instead of Wukong. We saw him get chunked down to unplayable levels of HP before most of the fights in last game even started. So a tankier champion for him this time, but C9's going with the full run back.
And this lets FlyQuest just walk into control like with Sejuani passive, so you can tank the initial poke that's coming in and still not lose like all of your HP. So it is this band-aid solution for like how this comp plays. So I like the adaptation here.
Well, once again, FlyQuest are now going to have to wonder, is it mid Ksante? Is it top Ksante? The flex power, they're on that third pick of the draft for C9. C9's going to go ahead and ban out Silas. It's going to be a Renata ban again for FlyQuest. They banned that out in the second phase in the previous game. They do not want to allow Zven to have that here in this one. C9 banning out the Renekton, and they want a different matchup in the top side this time.
It's going to be interesting to see, you know, what adjustments FlyQuest makes in the second half of their draft as well, because my kind of main concern here is Sejuani, I think, makes sense for entering for team fights and for actually entering around objectives. But if they go towards something like a Victor again, you're going to be so inactive in the early game that you don't really have a point of power. So like I feel like Vicla needs to be playing something that, you know, can be a little bit more proactive, that can get a little bit more done on the map, so they actually have something to play through.
Yeah, and I think that's smart by C9 to ban Renekton, because that's like their early game agency champion that can like progress the early game for FlyQuest. So I like the draft 4-5 bans here for C9.
Ooh, and the Soraka locked in for Cloud9. Not quite as much damage and zone control potential as the Heimerdinger, but some pretty incredible shutdown of playmaking through the silence, as well as those bursts of healing when FlyQuest tries to go in.
And the lane is actually really strong. Like it is one of those things where people sometimes underestimate, I think, the laning power of Soraka. But you know, if you want to play heavily for lane, you can go multiple points Q even before a point in W and really try to get that poke up. So I do think that the 2v2 again is going to be massively in the favor of Cloud9. But Jax gives them something to play through. You know, it's a melee pairing with Sejuani.
And crucially, it's an auto attacker that helps Sedge get her passive off. And I don't like Jax in like a 5-5 scenario because I think C9 side has a lot of CC, but the lane phase is slightly, it's definitely a skill matchup, so it depends on how the lane goes.
If you're on Cloud9 side, you know, are you happy to play the Ksante, or are you thinking about a potential counter pick? And if you are thinking about a swap on the Ksante towards mid lane, what pick would you be thinking about for
Kennen is a really good answer into Jax, like for 1v1 lane wise. Jace is good, but Jace is banned. Gangplank I think is really good, but also chance nerf, but I think Kennen would be the best. But if your name isn't Chovy, I don't think you should play Ksante mid, honestly. I've seen too many mids to just be too bad on it, so hopefully it just goes top, and it looks like it will.
Let's see, a couple more seconds to think it out. Hovering over a couple of different options here. All right, we're gonna settle on Orianna, just about the most evergreen, like standard mid champion there is in League of Legends. That's going to be EMENES' answer towards this Veigar that has been getting played more and more recently and has honestly had a lot of good games.
All right, you can sit down on the stage and play on one of these drafts immediately. Which one is it?
I like C9 side personally. I think it just has a lot more like stable lane. I think bot lane is really important, and they have a good bot lane, so it's gonna be like a similar scenario where they just play through bot, try to stack dragons, and contest Rift. I think C9 or FlyQuest has very good scaling, and if they can get to late game, I think Jax will be a really big problem along with Veigar. but it's just weathering the storm.
Yeah, my concern is just like they don't have any answers for the bot lane still, right? You know, and I do think FlyQuest is going to be put in a really tough spot again here. You know, maybe we'll just see them seed.
You know, set up like a cheese gang to bot where you can, you know, get their sums and then just play the lane out from there. FlyQuest looking for a level 1. Let's see what happens here.
30 seconds until minions spawn.
C9 grouping up in Pixel Brush. EMENES can just throw the ball over the corner
They're
there.
getting baited in though.
Yeah, Vicla
Hold on now. All right.
taking some damage here, but Sejuani really doesn't want to start Q ever, so he's starting W. Yeah, it looks like it's gonna be nothing.
All right, that looked like it could have turned into something, but
Yeah,
everybody's just gonna walk it off. All right, cool.
I mean, they get wards in FlyQuest side, so they'll see where Sedge generally starts unless he dodges all vision and doesn't do his Raptors. So gives some information to C9 and how to protect their ball in the early game to not get cheese ganked. And starting blue too, so
Yep.
ward on blue as well.
And with the players just about ready to get into position for the minions to spawn and start making their way down the lanes, we have another sideline interview ready to go. Jat is standing by with Mithy. Take it away.
Thanks, Flowers. Spice level 1, but nothing much to write home about. Let me know how you feel like the draft went.
I feel like this draft is a little bit better for them than last one, but I'm
What makes
not
it
really
better?
I'm not really sure if they're too comfortable with the champions that they're playing. So I mean, we'll have to see how like the game progresses and stuff. I mean, I think it's good that they picked the carry on top.
What do you think makes this draft better for them than the last one?
I think the last one was just too bad. Like they just didn't really have like a winning lane, except for Renekton, which is not really hard winning. And then I feel like our team just did better in fights and stuff. So it was just like they were just hoping that we made too many mistakes and then they can just like kind of like roll us over. But it didn't really happen.
Fair enough. And what do you think needs to happen in this game for you guys to take home the win?
Well, I feel like we just have. I mean, like our lane phase is favored, I think, actually, but they have Sejuani, so they can force some plays. I think after that, we just have more range than them, so they are the ones that have to kind of pull the trigger on us. And you know, the combination of us having winning lanes, and yeah, that's not good.
All right. Well, thank you, Mithy. I'll let you get back to the game. Caster, take it away.
Not good indeed, as Zven has to try to get away, but maybe they're ready to turn this one around. C9 has to burn both summoner spells on their support, but their opponents did the same, as well as a flash from Spica, and they don't get anything for it.
Yeah, and I want to say that it looked like TSM Jat there swapped over to FlyQuest Jat, asking Mithy how the draft is going and what can they do better. So, you know, I'm gonna have to see what FlyQuest is doing behind the scenes there. But yeah, blowing the ball in sums makes it so much better and easier for the lane to play out, even though it doesn't lead to a kill. Just the pressure is really helpful.
Yeah, it is definitely, because you're going to be feeling a lot more nervous about actually pushing heavily, you know, in this lane without sums. But Blaber got to clear 6 camps in the time that, you know, he actually did this bot. He only had a 3 camp clear into bot for Spica. He spent his flash, and there's both sums spent on Eyla. And if he gets too far forward, Blaber can actually flash. Eyla could be dead.
The silence
Oh, God.
from Zven's Soraka, making sure there was nothing Eyla could do to try to create more distance for himself.
And this is just like, it doesn't make sense to trade there. Like the wave's building into you. Maokai is likely pathing bot. You don't want to lose your condition, and your jungle can't cover you this timing. So
I gotta say,
doesn't make sense here.
when you're jungling and you actually commit, you know, you're giving up your resources to early gank bot, and then your lane dies 2v2 right after it. That is like a go next moment. That is where you don't want to play anymore.
Yeah.
Because the Maokai didn't even affect that. He just straight up died 2v2 over fighting into the wave. As you say, the wave is stacking, pushing towards you. You need to actually maintain health. You can't trade into a big wave like that. You can't all into a big wave like that.
Yeah, this just is like a basic error. I'm not sure if it's like the pressure of how the lane is going or whatever, but yeah, they need to like tighten the ship from here.
Not a good opening for the FlyQuest bottom lane. We talked about, hey, we want to see these guys play it a little bit cooler, pump the brakes a bit, especially around those bottom lane early plays that we know Cloud9 are going to want to set up. But this is the opposite of that plan. Now, Impact and Fudge scrapping a little bit, but as soon as Blaber shows up, it means Impact can't do a whole lot more. Blaber just wants to help Fudge get this wave shoved in.
Yeah, and one thing I will say that Blaber is like a jungler that always helps the laners out when their lane needs to be helped out. So he didn't base here, and he still just walked the top all the way from bot. So just to help Fudge get that wave in, because this is a risky wave where like Jax can potentially all in him, and he's just there to cover it. So just a small plays like that go unnoticed, but it helps the lane out tremendously.
I mean, it makes such a difference because a lot of times in these matchups, when you are low on mana, that you're most at risk,
Exactly.
right?
This is where you get the lead, and now it's just like neutralized because Blaber just showed in lane.
Yeah.
He didn't even gank it, he just showed in lane, and the lead is completely neutralized.
Fudge gets a completely free reset, and now he's chilling, right? So
Yeah.
you work through the entire laning phase with these slight trades to try to create this advantage, and then they have this pushing wave where it's difficult. Do you actually spend all your abilities on the wave to try to crash it? Then they could potentially all in you.
And pro play, it's generally like the big leads come from like when you want to prevent an enemy from basing or holding the wave in a bad spot. And if the enemy doesn't receive help, then that's where you get your big lead from. But yeah, Blaber just shuts that down really quickly. So it's good communication by Fudge as well as asking that he needs Blaber to hover there. So it's really good communication from C9 here.
Sometimes it's those really small things, like just walking up behind the guy so Jax can't do anything about it.
Hey, top is jungle difference.
It is, that's what I'm saying. Oh, they're looking for bot gank.
Top might be jungle diff, but bottom lane is about to be the same. Eyla ends up dying, so Berserker gets one back, and now Blaber's ready to fight this out in a 2v2. Berserker is fine to just continue putting arrows in him. He's having hams for dinner. Say goodnight to the piggy. It's a double kill over to Berserker.
They get 2 kills in the 2v3 there. Berserker gets both of them. 3-0. 6.5 minutes in for Berserker.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, that is not... I mean, they want to punish the Soraka no flash, but, yeah, you know, the Varus is just free hitting there. If you don't actually target the Varus, then it's just a lose-lose, you know? Like, who can you actually kill?
Well, the good news, gentlemen, is FlyQuest will not be contesting first straight this game. The bad news is it's because of this.
I mean, it's Ocean Drag, too, so that's kind of the worst dragon you want to give over early, which, you know, sucks, but it is what it is. We move.
Yeah, I mean, Berserker just stepping forward. I think really intelligent to actually just focus down the support in that situation. He knows Blaber's coming next. Prince is going to be able to get out, but Spica, the Q cooldown on Sejuani early is so long.
It's like almost 20 seconds, so once you're in, you're
18
in.
at rank 1, so you're not getting out of there. So he was for sure going down. And now you look at the buy for Berserker, like he's closing in on his first item complete here, and he has the early tier stacking. This Varus is going to be a menace. Plus, he got a blue buff off that, which is just like the extra salt in the wound.
Actually, what I would like to see is that C9 doesn't move their ball lane for Rift and just keeps playing for plates here on the ball lane with such a big lead, especially with blue buff and like the item disparity here. I would like to see them just play for plates on bottom lane instead of just rotating their lead to top side completely.
So Blaber going bottom again and going for that early Drake does mean he's a little behind his opponent in terms of EXP. Only level 5 compared to the level 6 on Spica. Hitting the level 6 now by securing his red. Both junglers are hovering up around this top side area as the Rift Herald spawns, and Spica's going to go ahead and start it up. But there is
it
a
looks like this is
there.
FlyQuest ball lane's only timer to move for his Rift, so they're just going to concede, and C9 just don't want to contest. Yeah, they're just fine with trading plates here. I think really smart play where you don't want to leave lane, especially without boots on Varus. Like, Zeri has tier 2 boots, Varus has no tier 1 boots, so even if you were to walk, you're just matching like so late.
Well, look at Blaber. They can actually zone them off this wave, and the ult hits, so that's cleanse gone, and now with Blaber and EMENES coming, Prince can't actually walk up, because with no cleanse, you're going to get guaranteed point-and-click rooted here.
This should be hard to survive here.
You are looking dead.
Nature's Grasp is ready to go, and Blaber has jumped in on Prince. However, FlyQuest do a good job fighting them off, making sure they don't get dove.
Really well played where FlyQuest realized they don't actually need their full ball lane to commit to get the Rift, where they see C9 going for bot play instead, so they just go back bot and survive the 2-3 dive. So really well adaptations mid rotation here by both teams.
I was a little bit surprised that the EMENES didn't actually commit to coming bot, because I thought they were going to fully commit to the 4v2 dog, because he started cheating down towards bot side.
I mean,
then
the wave wasn't there, so it's like the wave wasn't fully crashed, so and then he wants to get back to the next mid wave, and then it's like a fine line where how much resource you want to commit. So I can understand the decision.
Cleanse is ready to go on Berserker if Spica tries to make an engage here with the gank. That's one thing you've always got to remember against these marksmen that opt into that summoner spell, is generally it's got to be the support that's your target unless you're just trying to set it up for a repeat later on. Cloud9 does still enjoy a 1,000 gold lead and the +1 Drake that they've earned for themselves, but FlyQuest can make up some of that gap by a good usage of this Herald that was taken by Spica, still in his inventory. Blaber just trying to be a bit of a nuisance, steal away a couple of camps here. Spica's going to swoop in, take most of the baby chickens.
But crucially, this spot's where Sejuani is for C9 side, so look where they can just play at now. Like, they're just taking towers in front of their face, 2v2, and they cleared all their wards out too. So I mean, Prince just has to take a really bad base. They're down 3 plates on his tower, and yeah, this is really well played by C9.
Yeah, they're looking really good. Soraka's 6 now as well, so has the ability to actually impact. If FlyQuest is trying to make a play on the other side of the map, who are you even looking at gank, right? You try to go for Ksante. If you killed him, it would be barely, and now there's a Soraka ult that you have to deal with. Like, there's just not a lot of plays to make elsewhere on the map, it feels like.
Yeah, and I'm kind of thinking, like, where does FlyQuest even get the rift off? Because there's no real lane where, like, you have a clear advantage. Definitely not bot lane. Top lane is, like, I mean, Impact has actually a sizable lead, but I don't think you can actually, like, take the tower or anything. It's just a couple of plates, so, yeah.
So let me ask you this, like as someone who's played a lot of different top lane matchups, how do you feel if you're looking at a game state like this and you're really the one guy that has an advantage that you might be able to play around? Like, what is your thought process in that moment with that recognition? Hold on now.
Oh, another solo
1
kill?
second, we might end up having to see something else.
wow.
Fudge goes in. Why did I curse it? I'm sorry, Impact.
Well, as the top laner with the lead in this situation,
this is the castle curse that I've been hearing about.
You generally walk up and immediately die.
Well, I mean, Impact was up like 20 CS and he just kind of, overplayed a bit. I mean, that's like the thing where you feel really pressured to push your lead, especially when you see your ball line doing this far back. So you're taking extra risks just to get yourself ahead, and that's kind of the situation that Impact ended up in there, and Fudge was able to punish.
Ooh, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is that's the difficulty, is that it changes your perception, right?
Yeah.
If bot lane is going well, you don't feel any need to push that lead whatsoever. But when your team is losing around the map, you feel like I got to get something done with my lead. I'm the only strong member right now, so I do think that plays a bit of a role here. Blaber is coming down, and Prince is chunked low, so they gotta leave.
Maokai no ult, so they should be able to get out and get this rift off, but it's not too much gold. It's just the first 2 plates, so it's only like 80 gold split amongst 3, which doesn't really feel like much.
Yeah, and I mean, it's already about a 1,200 gold difference between Berserker and Prince, so pretty significant lead for Berserker. He has the early Ghost Blade, has another serrated Dirk on top, so he's just in such a good spot. Plus, he had magical footwear, so didn't even have to spend gold on boots.
I mean, this tower is probably going to go down in like 3 waves or so I want to see how FlyQuest defends this.
They're sending multiple bot. You can see that Vicla was starting to move, Sejuani's coming down, but like you can't play it when Prince is this low.
Yeah, I mean, like, how do you even help this lane, right? Like, Veigar move, it's on a ward. Like, also, it's like no engage. They have cleanse. It's almost like a checkmate scenario. And C9 plays these type of styles really well, and they don't really make mistakes.
And it feels like FlyQuest is just being way too reliant on playing for 5v5, right? When you're actually just first picking Zeri, when you're saying, we're gonna just go for this, we're just gonna look to actually team fight, we're gonna dominate you there. Yeah. Prince, of course, is an incredible team fighter, and he can get a lot of value there, but so is Berserker.
And this kind of reminds me of our series, where this is kind of the same mindset we had. Like, we can, weather the lane and beat them in a 5v5, but if the lane is looking this rough and you get snowballed on this hard, giving early dragons like this, then the 5-5 is never an even scenario, so it's really hard.
And the thing is, Infernal Soul again on the table. This is another one of those really scary situations. This is a 3-0 start, poke lethality Varus, and now you have to deal with the potential of him having an Infernal Soul very early.
And I mean, you have basically 4.5 minutes to get ready to fight, right? It's not even like FlyQuest have a lot of time to actually wait. And
another one?
I mean, Spica's here, so Fudge sees him now.
Smart
Good
word by Fudge to put down the bush there.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, he's, even though he's down CS, he's playing like the lane well. He's not down to ganks, even though he's down CS. But Fudge is just doing his job. So, and all lane's doing theirs.
Yeah. Berserker's going to get full plate value. 100% of possible money from this turret is going over to Cloud9.
Even denying the creeps here.
Marksman. Yup. Min-maxing, baby. Min-maxing.
Look how awkward this is. Like, they're not even sending anyone to bot. Zven eventually.
Oh my.
Zven getting caught out here. There's the follow-up. There's the engage. There's what FlyQuest needed. They find the enemy support without his flash, and they get the money and the kill on Vicla.
But it's like they have no one farming bot, because, Vicla didn't even feel comfortable to walk down there. So they basically just moved their bot lane mid without anywhere for Vicla to go. So now you're actually having your bot lane that's doing so bad spill over into your mid lane and affect him.
I'm pretty sure I can hear Zven saying worth there, because they used 2 flashes for a Soraka kill. That's not even close to like being contesting objective. So 1 kill to guarantee this rift pretty much is 100% worth trade.
And Berserker got to deny 2 waves bot and took solo tower gold. First turret is up over 2,000 gold in the matchup now. So it's like, who cares? Your Soraka died? That's actually nothing.
It's actually a good death.
Yeah, because they won't even have the flashes. They won't have the flashes for Dragon as well, which is actually what they must fight.
And you guys saw the total gold that popped up on the screen just a minute ago. Berserker's 1,800 out in front of the next closest players, which are Impact and then his own mid laner in EMENES. 5,400, 5,400, 7,000. Okay, he's only 1,600 up now, my bad. But that's a real good spot to be in for Berserker, as Fudge is pursuing Impact here in the bottom lane. Berserker and Zven both coming down to help him. Now they just gotta make sure they don't put themselves in a spot where Impact can try to turn it around on Berserker. Wish comes out. FlyQuest do a good job fighting this off, and now they're ready to reinforce. Prince and Eyla are coming around from the side. FC9 need to disengage. Zven might be the target here yet again, but he has his flash ready to go over the wall to escape the Grand's entrance. Now the Maokai ult will provide the escape route for C9. They do disengage it. Nobody dies from either side, but both teams made an attempt.
That's actually pretty big, though, for FlyQuest. Really good job by Impact fighting his way out of that situation. You can see Berserker didn't want to commit too close to the Jax because he was worried about getting leap striked on and actually being focused down, so he was slow playing it a lot. But Impact started winning that 1v1 so heavily, they get flash off of top, they get flash off of support, but it is going to be a Herald Crash for a guaranteed tower mid.
I mean, that was kind of best case scenario for Fly, and they still come out behind in that play, so. That's Klein's here, so he should be able to get out.
Oh, good ult.
Yeah, how patient he is with his
Easy.
Doesn't burn the flash.
Cleanses it.
Good patience on how he needs to survive. Didn't panic at all. Like that.
Yeah, I feel like there's been a pretty nice development we've seen from EMENES. When you think back to his first game, that first Victor game he played on stage, really did look, I think, pretty nervous and didn't look as comfortable. And to be bringing out, Orianna, something that is not really a champion that's, I think, kind of considered his style, so to speak, in a game like this, and performing really well.
Yeah, I think what I remember EMENES by is on the LeBlanc game against TSM, I think it was, where he got like a 1v3 going in, like playing LeBlanc really aggressively. I think that's his potential, and that's what C9 sees in him, and he's just getting more comfortable on stage.
And we got to see a game previously as well where he played the Syndra and was able to have a solid performance on that. And that's one thing that I always look for in a great player as opposed to just a good player. You're obviously always going to have your specialties. You're going to have the types of champions that you prefer and that you're best at. But being able to play the other ones anyway on a good level really steps up the game, because then your comps can be drafted around those champions, being a part in them. You aren't limiting yourself to just this one style that your opponents can then take advantage of that. Good stuff.
Well, it's players that can become somewhat meta-proof. When you look at a lot of the players that have been able to actually have careers that have spanned such a long time, it's often because, they are flexible. They can adjust, depending on what gets buffed, what gets nerfed.
Yeah, I mean, FlyQuest is playing two lanes here, bot. They're going to give up top tower, which, doesn't feel good. And they want to be in first position for this dragon, but Fudge can just keep it down while getting this tower, which is what he's doing right now. So they can just retake pretty easy, given how poke Varus works.
You can see Impact has been spotted. There was Cloud9 pings over onto the Jax, so they're already marking him. Blaber just going to dodge most of this poke in the cage, so not really a big deal. And again, you're going to have to walk through these saplings. Vicla has already been poked to about half, so it's getting tough.
Yeah, he threw down the cage trying to find some poke onto Blaber, but the arrow over the wall max range from Berserker hits Vicla for more damage than he was able to deal out. Now Fudge is going to try to keep FlyQuest, and particularly Spica, away. Yeah, Impact wants the angle onto the back line. If he can find the Soraka or the Varus, that's the ideal situation. Spica ends up getting a field goal with his ulti. That's not what FlyQuest needed. Blaber fires off an ult of his own, trying to keep these guys away. Spica nearly killed, but nearly is enough for now because he can still contest the Drake. Down to 100 HP. FlyQuest still trying to find a way to enter into the fight as Eyla makes his way into the back line, and now EMENES has to flash away from the event horizon. They go in, and Blaber's going to be killed off first. FlyQuest are going to contest the Drake, and it does go their way. Now Spica's taken over the wall, and Fudge goes all out. Impact looks for a little bit more damage to take him back. Then he's going to find him. Piercing arrow ready to fly, but it won't touch Impact.
That is absolutely huge for FlyQuest to get the dragon and trade relatively even when they're down so much gold. I think they navigated that fight really well, and that buys them so much time here, preventing the soul stack.
Yeah, actually, I think a really good job, by Impact, playing that kind of threat of the flank, without actually overcommitting to it, without ever getting caught out, because it made it very difficult for Cloud9 to ever move forward. They're kind of just stuck in that one area around Pixel because they can't fully commit to actually walking up and starting to auto and starting to get more damage out, because the Impact is always threatening the backline if they do. So, really good patience
he's
playing
so much attention here, just drawing, does Varus want to Q him, Q like in the front, and then Eyla is also here, so buying a lot of time. And for FlyQuest, that has to feel real, like a big sense of relief where you just bought an extra 5 minutes of time to scale into this game. And this was a fight that you need to win. I think that if they lost this fight, the game would have been almost over.
And that is honestly a huge sigh of relief for a team that had been struggling heavily in this early game, just like in game number 1. Now, the work is not over. Indeed, it is just beginning. There's still quite a big lead here for Cloud9, but FlyQuest showing they can do these things, and Impact specifically. It's what we were talking about at the top of the day, Isaac, in Champ Select number 1. Impact is a clutch player in these big moments, in these big games, and he's going to have to keep performing if FlyQuest want to come back against C9 in this one.
Absolutely. I mean, to just come away from that fight with a win when Berserker was up an entire item like that early to Varus on 2 items and you actually win that fight is just enormous.
And right now, what FlyQuest is thinking that they have TP advantage here, so they want to make a topside play. Impact is winning his 1v1 individually, so he'll have push on his wave, and if they can find a TP flank angle and try to get these no flash targets, that's their way back into the game, and that's what they're looking for. So pressuring up on this red, Spica getting caught out. Oof.
A little bit of danger there. That's Soraka silence has caused a couple of problems for FlyQuest.
That was actually pretty close to a root. A nice little attempt. They try to go for the shockwave to pull him into the silence to get the silence root off of it, but obviously shockwave's not really a hard CC. It's just a little bit of a displacement, so
and now that
able to get
TP advantage doesn't really exist. I mean, Fudge is running Cosmic Insight, so it's very low cooldown. It's like 3 minutes and like 15 seconds or something, so they don't really have too much time on it. So, I mean, now it's just, you know, like play for individual lead ball lane, try to get this tower on your own, which will be hard, but, you know, they just have extra time here with the crucial Dragon take.
So do you think this is the best way then for Impact to play it out? You know, he feels like he has that strong individual advantage. You know, what do you want to see from him to try to buy the time for Zeri and Veigar to get to the point where they can get the rest of the work done? Yeah, I mean, the best way for FlyQuest to play this game out is, you know, keep Baron warded, make sure it doesn't get, you know, like, done without seeing it. I mean, they have a poke Varus, so it's not really a big threat. And just play for his bot tower, which FlyQuest is doing right now. So they're identifying their win conditions pretty well here to get back into the game. Because this is the only lane that has a lead, so you can only play through this lane pretty much.
Exactly. Spica's trying to steal away the blue buff around that power point of Impact, but a little bit more difficult when the rest of C9 shows up to try to defend their territory. Gold lead has shrank back down to 1,500 compared to the 3K that it was before, so FlyQuest have cut that in half.
Yeah, and you know, Prince is getting it towards his BT, so we'll cut the poke Varus, like, you know, it's not that useful. You don't want to aim Zeri anymore as a target, so you know, FlyQuest are actually in a really good spot to, you know, come back in this game.
All right, C9, let's see how they want to play it from here, having lost some of that control that they were expecting to continue and expecting to maintain before that dragon fight went awry. We have just about a minute left until the next Drake spawns. Remember, the previous game had a similar situation. First couple of Drakes go over to C9. FlyQuest stops the straight-up soul stack, but then C9 retook control after. Blaber going to continue just being this frontliner here for the side of C9. Fudge constantly on Impact control duty across the map.
Yeah, I mean, I think FlyQuest has done a good job. You know, after that last fight, they're getting themselves into a position where it is more winnable. But to be honest, Cloud9 is still one really good fight away from potentially taking the game. You know, if they slam this next fight, you can potentially get Baron off of that. I mean, it is full 3 items done for Berserker. Muramana totally charged up, so he's ready to go. And they do have that potential, you know, of Maokai plus the Shockwave to follow it up. Orianna, you know, obviously has rank 2 ultimate, has 2 items completed as well. So I do think they have a lot of power here still. And FlyQuest is going to have to be careful about how they engage it, but at least, you know, they're close enough to where if they play out a fight well, they can definitely win now.
Sunfire Aegis completed for Fudge for some better wave clear and defending against Impact on these sides. Amplifying Tome in Impact's inventory leads me to believe he's going to be going Zhonya's Hourglass third for when he dives into the team fight so he can drop the aggro, which is going to make him even more of a pressure point on this C9 backline. The way that C9 plays out these fights around the neutral objective has got to be unlocked. EMENES going to lose his Banshee's Veil, but Blaber's gone in, and they found an engage here onto Vicla. He buys a little bit of time here with a stasis. He's staying alive with the Seraphs, but EMENES picks up the kill on the other end of the fight. Eyla and Impact are being zoned away by Fudge, and with the enemy mid laner picked off and killed through his flash and his stopwatch, it's C9 looking to take their third Drake.
That is so rough there. Actually losing flash, losing stopwatch, and losing Vicla. So this is a free dragon now, and Cloud9 can you know, move back up and start pressuring around that Baron area again.
I mean, it's a really good, you know, force by C9. You know, they're getting flanked by Impact. It was like a similar fight to the third dragon, and they just made their decision decision to just flash on Vicla right away. Don't let yourself get flanked, and it just pays off. Obviously, the silver lining for FlyQuest is that not many more people died outside of Vicla, so you kind of live with that. But you know, it gives them third dragon, so the pressure is now on for fourth dragon here.
Radiant Virtues on both of our junglers, as Anathema's Chains is the second item completed for Spica. Anathema's great for reducing the damage, great for building up that extra CC duration on your target as well. But one of the big issues for FlyQuest is both C9 carries have cleansed this game. So there is the tough task of having to deal with that as Fudge uses a teleport to guarantee his escape from the incoming FlyQuest collapse. And with FlyQuest sending multiple men to the bottom side of the map, C9's saying, all right, boys, go Baron.
Really good awareness by Fudge to instantly TP out there. And I mean, this is C9's kind of weakness. They don't actually burst Baron that fast, so FlyQuest will be able to check.
And they're going to commit the teleport as well. They want to be able to go in for this fight, but that's a nice all-out coming in from Fudge. He targets the enemy jungler, trying to keep Spica low enough that they can't go in and try to steal away the Baron. But now Blaber is going to be isolated. He's taking a lot of shots from Prince. Both junglers are low. Spica, however, has healed up pretty nicely. They're going to have Zven's heals to try to reinvigorate Blaber if the fight wants to go any further, but both sides seem happy to back away for now. Hold on, Spica wants to go in. EMENES could be the target here at the very start. Event Horizon goes down, but nobody on C9 drops. Fudge is ready to flash forward and keep the fight going. Now they knock him back with an nice Q3, and Impact looking for somebody of value. Berserker goes on a rampage, and Vicla is down. Blaber and Fudge continuing to cause disruption as Blaber leads the charge, and FlyQuest don't have the damage. A double kill back to Berserker, and C9 out team fight.
Man, the initial play looked like it was so favored to FlyQuest, pushing Cloud9 off that Baron, getting Blaber chunked low, but they just kind of stay around here too long. Cloud9 finds the re-engage, and just having this walking health battery here with the Soraka allows them to stay in the fight so long. Why go to the fountain when you can bring the fountain to you?
I mean, that fight was like, it started off really well for FlyQuest, and then they felt like they just kept needing to like forcing. That I think they just don't realize how slowly C9 actually does Baron, so they feel under threat to like keep forcing again and again. I think this re-engage here kind of doomed them, where Prince is on mid lane, and I don't know if their team knows that, where Varus is top, but he makes it quicker to the fight.
Yeah, I mean,
so like this whole initial part, like Prince just not hitting, where, you know, the fight is like completely started, and just now Prince gets in the fight, his lethal tempo's not stacked, and he crucially doesn't have Zeri ult, so no pentakill for him.
Yeah, without Zeri ult, it's so difficult. And Veigar can't actually close the gap to try to one-shot the Ori anyway, so they were never really going to have the follow-up there to get it done. And in those fights where you're trying to actually fight through a Maokai and a Ksante, they're so disruptive. It's so incredibly hard for someone like the Veigar or the Jax to actually get onto this Banshee's Veil Orianna, who's kiting back, while there's so much peel on the frontliners.
And we do have an even more dire problem for FlyQuest with the timing of that play. This Baron lasts for 2 more minutes, and here, just about 20 seconds shy of that, the Drake that would give them Infernal Soul spawns. So unless C9 makes a big blunder, nice shockwave coming out there from EMENES. FlyQuest trying to continue to defend, but now Spica loses half HP here on the front line too.
I mean, like, what can you do? You know, you threw everything at him. Soraka just kills him to full. And I think he just gained HP after that engagement. So it's like, what do you do?
And look at Soraka. He's got a full Mikhails as well, right? So there's cleanse on mid lane, cleanse on AD, and you have a Mikhails. How are you actually supposed to find this engage as Sejuani? It feels almost impossible here. You know, you're hoping for catches with Sejuani all with Veigar Cage, but there's so many tools to actually answer that, and it's very difficult for champions, especially like Veigar, to even approach without getting poked by that Varus.
Yeah.
And it's getting harder and harder here. Berserker's approaching 4 items. This guy is going to threaten everyone with the poke. You can see Cloud9 also just completely loading up their inventory. Everyone has a bunch of pink wards. They are going to completely try to control vision here. You look at the bot side jungle.
7 control wards in inventory.
Oh, and just look at the jungle, right? There's no vision for the enemy team. They're going to play so heavily for the soul. How do FlyQuest even
I don't think they can fight. Like, if they end up fighting here, which they feel like they might have to or the game's over, but I think it's like a lose-lose situation. You know, there's no good way to play it. You have hard engage, but they have cleanse, and they have Mikhail, so you can't really go on anyone, and you're going to get poked out. So it's really hard fight to navigate here. Eyla is trying to get a flank ward for Impact to get the fight going, but it's really hard.
I mean, Berserker also even just finished his 4th item, so it's, you know, a full item and a half ahead of Prince at this point.
I mean, looks like they're going. I mean, Prince bought a red pod.
They're going to flip.
They're going to go for this.
Yeah.
Prince is an absolute necessity in terms of popping off in this next fight. The Zeri has to go crazy if FlyQuest are aiming to win right here. C9 starting up the Drake. Berserker's a menace here on the Varus.
I mean, Spica is already below half.
How is Spica even going to fight this?
Yeah.
Spica's just knocked back towards the waiting players of Cloud9. He's not dead yet. Impact wants a flank. This is the X factor. This is what might be able to set it up here for the Zeri of Prince. C9 stay together. Spica's still low. They go in, and they want to start the fight on Vicla yet again. The silence from the Soraka, the follow-up from the team. The Veigar has been found out, and FlyQuest are now jumped on with the remaining players in a 4v5. The heal pours into the health bars of C9 as they make sure they will not be losing this one. Impact wants to go after Berserker, but Berserker will not get got. Prince tries to surf back over the wall, but the bodies of his friends wash ashore as C9 takes another fight.
The Nexus may not be destroyed, but the game just ended. Cloud9 crushed the team fight, get the soul. And they have been managing these flanks so well. EMENES is effectively, 1v2 warding off both Eyla and Impact, dissuading them from actually getting into the fight. And on the other side, I love how Fudge is playing this. Fudge is basically holding this side. EMENES is holding this side, keeping your carries safe in the middle. It's just so well played, holding those lines incredibly well until Cloud9 finds that moment where they can fully commit forward and actually take out this carry here. Well, Impact and Eyla are still getting zoned off by EMENES. They can't actually even get in.
Yeah, I mean, even if you hard engage, you just don't have enough damage through the Soraka, through the cleanse. Like, it's such a hard fight to win. You really have to see someone on C9 mess up, and I mean, it's just, they're so far ahead. It's like anything you do is going to lead to victory, so almost an impossible challenge here for FlyQuest, and they managed to get a kill on Prince, but it's definitely not enough.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, really difficult for them, in that position, but Cloud9 definitely deserving of the credit, playing it out really well.
Yeah,
I mean, we saw Impact when he tries to walk through. 1 QW was, I want to say, what, 25-30% of his health?
Yeah.
So it's just like, you can't just walk through that. And you can see, look at Ksante damage. That's the one that really stands out to me. I mean,
they came and killed
unopposed.
Fudge here. He's kind of just backing up just because it's like good fundamentally. It's just not 1v2 here, but I mean, he can 1v2 for sure.
Well, I mean, Isaac, he does have incredibly high damage items like Iceborne Gauntlet and Shield and Shoes. So it makes sense that he would do more damage than Zeri in his
Yeah. I mean, he's building full tank. He should play really safe.
I mean, the thing is, it's like Zeri can't even approach the fights, right? And this is what it is that they're enabling him so well. They realize that there's no way from this position that FlyQuest can commit all their resources to kill Ksante and actually win a fight. Like, even in a fight where they kill Ksante there, you have overspent so much that you're guaranteed to lose. So it allows Fudge to just play with absolute confidence, knowing that there's no really shot that he can actually get taken down.
Yeah, I mean, I think Vicla is saying in comms, guys, I outscaled Cope. Like, wait for my Q to stack up, and maybe I get 2,000 AP and I can one-shot someone. But outside of that, I do not see a way how FlyQuest come back here.
I mean, Vicla is not even starting his death cap. He needs so much to actually get to that point. He literally needs death cap and void staff.
Yeah, I think it's
that's another 20 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, maybe even more than that, honestly. Like, he's building towards Morello, I think.
Yeah.
It's not a good look. LS Malding right now.
Well, I'll tell you who's not molding. It is Cloud9, man. 8,000 gold up, Infernal Soul in their possession, starting up the Baron, looking to control the river and find the engage on their opponents. Stop him! Ayla's already gone! All right, I don't even think you need Baron at this point. They're going to stop off and make sure they do this one the slow, steady way anyway. Baron's going to go the way of C9. Impact and Eyla both just explode trying to approach.
My man upgraded the bow and arrow for a bazooka there.
Yeah, I think FlyQuest needs to ban Maokai. Just me, I think. But
no more Zeri
not
bans,
one playable
no
here.
more Maokai.
Yeah.
Maybe ban the Baron.
Only if they had like a
ban the
series to
Maokai.
watch where they could know that C9 prioritized Maokai or something. I don't know. That'd be helpful.
I mean, Maokai is obviously really strong here, but to me, it's interesting because it just feels like the bot lane has been the biggest problem in both games, right?
Yeah.
I feel like they thought they fixed that with the Heimer ban, but again, Zven is one of the guys who is so willing to go to these lane dominant picks. He has done it throughout his whole support career. You're not going to stop him with just that one ban, and now Cloud9 barreling down the top lane, pushing in the mid lane. This is double inhib almost instantly.
Yeah.
FlyQuest will dig in, try to defend, but
here's Hail
it's
Mary.
gonna be hard. Yeah, this is it. This is the YOLO play. Impact comes around from behind, trying to see if they can find the engage, but FlyQuest is just gonna engage first. They've already killed Vicla, and that's one of the huge damage dealers. Ayla drops
Let's see if
next.
anyone falls
C9's
below
just going
half
for it.
HP.
Impact only gets there in time to see everything on fire, and he walks right back away. Impact and Fudge in the 1v1, and Fudge ain't even afraid no more.
Yeah.
FlyQuest kept it closer than they did in game number 1, but C9 is a war machine here in his winner's bracket final. Berserker's gonna pad his damage stats a little bit on the way out. C9, match point.
Well played by C9. You know, they play this style extremely well. Clean snowball, controlled game. They only made maybe one mistake this whole game, and it just looks like complete domination here.
It's 0 deaths on either of the carries. It was 3 kills in the first 6.5 minutes for Berserker, and he made the most of it.
I mean, FlyQuest is drafting these champions that need time to scale. They're picking Zeri, first pick on blue side. Mid lane was a Victor and a Veigar. These champions are not coming online fast enough to deal with C9. If you're against a team who would also prefer to just scale, okay, sure, that might work. C9 is not willing to take that. You mentioning Zven, willing to play lane dominant picks. Berserker's picking this Varus every game. Varus needs to be banned if you just want to play scaling. I feel like, because C9 is showing you, we don't play that.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think you can first pick Zeri anymore. Like, I don't think that they can do that. There's not enough bans to actually protect some of these winning lanes, especially if you're going to do such a weak pairing like with the Rakan. Rakan is like one of the worst laners, I feel like, especially at least in pro meta. The only thing Rakan really offers generally is gank assistance, right? And as long as your Maokai is covering you, and you talk about how Blaber is so good at actually covering lanes when they are vulnerable, there's not really a lot that they can offer. They're just going to straight up lose those 2v2s hard from draft in both games.
It's just draft diff, Coach Gab. I don't know what to say.
Well, FlyQuest has got a lot of changes to make. We already know that by getting to this game here today, they are guaranteed to be able to play in Raleigh, so that's great for them. But you would love to be able to say that you're punching your ticket straight for the final. You would love to secure that spot at MSI already, and they're one game away from losing out on that opportunity.
And it's also a confidence killer, you know? Like, if you go on stage, you feel confident in your preparation here, and you get absolutely smacked out 3-0, you know, 3 games in a row there, even if you battle back to the grand finals, as much as you want to say you're going to feel confident, that's going to be in the back of your head.
I mean, I think FlyQuest did have some good rotations this game. Like, they navigated the Rift scenario well, even though they were down a lot of gold. They
Impact
still had
well.
good flanks on that third dragon. It's just that they were, like, too far behind. And I think they shouldn't lose complete hope. Like, Topwood's winning. He had a good lane, even though he died. But it's still, there was, like, glimpses of hope where FlyQuest can win. I think they just need to change their strategy.
Yeah, just a little bit more early power, early pressure to be able to compete with what C9 is bringing to the table. I feel like you can probably expect that C9 is going to keep playing like this until you show them that you can weather the early storm, because why would you change it? Why would you change it based on how it's been going so far? Again, I feel like you probably need to B_N_V_RUS. I think that's the play for FlyQuest in Game 3. But with Game 2 wrapped up, a reminder,